Former Patriots running back Robert Edwards suffered one of the most brutal injuries in NFL history. We're talking about one that rivals Alex Smith, Dak Prescott, and many others. But the thing that takes the cake is that although there were only NFL players participating in this game, not a single player was wearing pads. There was no field, no turf, no stadium. See, the NFL used to host something known as the Rookie Beach Bowl, a glorified flag football game played on the beach as a precursor to the Pro Bowl. It was meant to be an event that celebrates the NFL's top rookie performer. It was meant to give status, exposure, and bragging rights to the league's young stars. But what happens when an event meant to give a young player all these things instead takes away everything? This is what happened to Robert Edwards. Cue the way. Yeah, you'll never know quitter, 'cause I'ma go get her. Robert Edwards dealt with some situations that you really need a bulletproof mindset in order to be able to deal with. This is something we should all strive for, but it's easier said than done. But one of the things that's been a tremendous help for me is staying sharp through listening to audiobooks. And because it's something I've been doing for years, even before I got on YouTube, these days I'm finding it incredibly useful to kind of go back and brush up on some of the books that I read years ago. A great way to do that is through today's video sponsor, Blinkist. Blinkist is an app that condenses over 3,000 non-fiction books into 15-minute summaries that are easily digestible. You can get all the bullet points and cliff notes and takeaways from a beefy book in about 15 minutes. So the whole I ain't got time to read thing, that's complete cap at this point. Like, really, you ain't got no excuses. Blinkist honestly makes it way too damn easy, bro. Two books I'd recommend for getting through hurdles and mental barriers would be Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is the Way and Robert Greene's Mastery. These two cats are constantly dropping gems from interesting bits of history that are completely applicable in today's world. If you're not utilizing these resources at this point, honestly, bro, it's on you. You gotta step it up. If you want to download the Blinkist app, all you gotta do, click the link in the description, and the first 100 people are gonna get unlimited access for a full week to try it out. Plus, you'll also get 25% off if you decide to go ahead and get a full membership. So shout out to Blinkist once again for sponsoring the video, but without further ado, let's jump in. According to calculations done by the NFL Players Association, the chances of any high school football player making it to the NFL are about 0.2%. So let's just say,
may the odds be ever in your favor.
But for the former New England Patriot first round pick, those odds had to drop down even lower, considering the fact that a birth defect caused his bones in his legs to grow in crooked. So when dude was born, his parents were actually told by the doctors that he'd never ride a bike, he'd never play sports, he'd never even race his friends down the street, let alone play one of the most brutal sports that the modern world has to offer on a professional level. Despite that, Robert grew up as a pretty normal kid. He overcame his birth defect, and not only did dude play sports, he never missed an opportunity to get out there as a kid. This built a sense of pride and confidence in Robert and made him feel like he could overcome anything. By the time he made it to high school, the days of him worrying about the birth defect were pretty much completely behind him. The dude played damn near every position on the field, like real talk. Safety, corner, quarterback, receiver, kicker, everything. And while doing all of that, he turned a bad team around, and his senior year, they actually went 14-1. And just like that, a kid born with basically zero shot at playing football on any level was now being recruited by top SEC programs. Florida actually had the first shot, but during Robert's visit, the Florida coach Steve Spurrier tried to pressure Robert into signing. Robert basically told him, yo, I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna think about it, and I'll let you know tomorrow. To that, Steve Spurrier said, if you leave out of this office, there may not be a scholarship waiting here for you tomorrow. Wow. Robert's dad, who was there with him, was pissed. And he, rightfully by the way, walked out of Spurrier's office and told him, guess what? I don't know where my son playing at, but I know damn well it ain't gonna be here. But see, here was the problem. Robert actually did not have another D1 offer. The issue is his SAT scores was pretty damn low, and while he did initially have many more schools interested, they had all pretty much backed off by this point. With that said, man, shout out to Robert's dad for having some integrity and not letting Steve Spurrier pressure his son into making an impulsive decision. Colleges are supposed to develop young boys into men who can make sound choices. But how can you do that if you start the relationship out with a kid by pressuring him to make an impulsive decision? That's clearly BS, and it sucks that a lot of these schools probably still operate like that today. Fortunately for Robert, Georgia actually found out about the snafu that happened in Florida, and they just lost an offensive lineman to another school, so boom, they just had a spot open up. So with Georgia's last scholarship, they offer Robert, he takes it, boom, he's a Georgia Bulldog. Despite being the last player to sign, Robert was literally the only freshman in his class that didn't redshirt that year at Georgia. Dude worked his ass off and got on the field immediately. And I want to discuss the athlete dude was because here's something that I picked up while doing the research, right? Florida actually offered him a scholarship as a wide receiver, but Georgia offered him a scholarship as a cornerback. He went to the league as a first-round pick, playing the running back position. And it's crazy to think this dude was a D1 level athlete at least 3 different positions. That's pretty dope. As a shutdown corner, Robert led his team in interceptions during his sophomore season and was on track to shatter the odds by making himself into an NFL DB. Then something crazy happened, right? Robert's junior season, spring camp, there's a string of injuries at running back, and the guys they have that are healthy really ain't getting the job done. The coaches ain't impressed. So then the strength coach, probably to the defensive coordinator's dismay, went to the head coach and was like, yo, your best running back is playing defense. So the last week of spring camp, they try out Robert at running back, probably the position he played the least in high school when he was lining up all over the damn field. But ultimately, it didn't matter. Dude ran all over Georgia's defense in practice, and with that, his defensive days was over. And y'all ain't gonna believe this, man. In his first game at running back versus South Carolina, dude scored 5 touchdowns in the second half. Next game versus Tennessee, he scores 2 touchdowns by the second quarter. But during that quarter, he gets injured. Broken foot, season over. One of the dope things was dude was actually leading the nation in rushing touchdowns for a good while, and he'd only played a game and a half, but them 7 touchdowns held up as the lead for multiple weeks to come. Robert eventually recovered and played 2 more years at Georgia, but the team had began passing the ball a lot more under coach Jim Donan, as Hines Ward, who came in 1 year after Robert, became the focal point of the offense. But in those 2 years, Robert rushed for 1,700 yards and scored 21 touchdowns. Unlike many running backs of his time, Robert's time spent as a wide receiver really shined through as well. Dude averaged 23 catches per year at about a 9 yards per catch clip. His performance and versatility was enough to get him drafted the following year, first round, 18th overall by the New England Patriots. Robert was the 3rd running back taken, and fun fact, he was actually drafted before Randy Moss. Other notable names from this same draft: Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf, notable for a different reason, Charles Woodson, Fred Taylor, and my boy Takeo Spikes. Robert was brought in by the Patriots to replace Curtis Martin, who had just left for the Jets, and dude, this man had a monster rookie season as he scored a touchdown in each of his first 6 NFL games. He finished the year with 1,115 yards and 9 touchdowns. Add to that 35 receptions for 331 more yards and 3 more scores, and you have an amazingly productive rookie who seems to be set up for a pretty damn good career. But unfortunately for Robert, things would soon go left. Despite a damn good rookie season, it wasn't quite enough to get him into the Pro Bowl. Dude was literally a rookie having to deal with prime versions of all-time great backs like Terrell Davis, Jamal Anderson, Garrison Hurst, Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, Marshall Faulk, Eddie George, Curtis Martin, Ricky Waters, Fred Taylor, Robert Smith, Jerome Bettis, Corey Dillon. And while Robert's numbers in any other season would have been good enough to win him Rookie of the Year, like I said before, he just so happened to come in with the freak himself, Randy Moss, who just shattered. Like, he just went crazy that first year. So Robert ended up getting second runner-up to Randy Moss. His numbers were, however, good enough to get him an invite to play in the rookie flag football game called the Rookie Beach Bowl. As we discussed in the intro, this was basically the NFL's version of the Rising Stars Challenge, and it was held 1 day before the Pro Bowl. In 1999, when Robert participated, it featured the likes of people like Peyton Manning and Charles Woodson. But when a pass went up and Robert and Charles both jumped to intercept it, they collided mid-air. And Robert came down awkwardly. What happened next was one of the most brutal injuries you'll ever see, rivaling the likes of Dak Prescott, Alex Smith, and Kevin Ware. But the fact that Robert's injury took place in a meaningless game of flag football on the beach that was meant to celebrate his accomplishments really amplifies the savagery of this injury. As Robert laid there, leg bending in a direction that is not meant to bend in, he says he felt no pain. I can't help but wonder if he flashed back into his childhood. Was this due to the birth defect in his legs? Was it always inevitable that something like this would happen? Or was it completely random? Robert tore his ACL, MCL, PCL, and LCL, shattering his knee completely. Again, bro, this is 1999 and the advancements in medicine have come so far. Back then, just an ACL alone could be considered career threatening for a football player, especially a running back. So the fact that he ripped up pretty much every major ligament in his knee, I mean, that should have been all she wrote. Oddly enough, that wasn't even the worst of it. Dude suffered severe nerve damage and sliced through an artery in his leg. He was rushed to the emergency room, and the doctors informed Robert that there was a pretty good chance they were gonna have to amputate his leg. Like, can you imagine this, bro? He overcame everything that was thrown at him, something he was literally born with and had no control over. Didn't deserve it, it was just random. He went from a kid that wasn't even supposed to race down the street to playing in the NFL. First round pick, then he beasted out, ran for over 1,000 yards, makes it to the NFL's version of the Rookie Rising Stars Challenge, and then in a game where he's being honored for his stellar play as a rookie, he suffers an injury so severe that he may never walk again. And right now, I'm gonna ask the question that everybody's wondering. Whose dumbass idea was it to put a bunch of NFL stars on sand to play flag football? Like, that is a terrible idea. Now, some people may feel like this isn't one of those league-altering injuries that you hear about all the time, but a commenter from one of the videos showcasing Robert's injury actually made a case that this could be one of the most significant injuries in NFL history. Now, he takes a couple leaps and bounds to get where he's going, but it's an interesting what if, has nothing to do with the story. I'm gonna throw it in anyway. Here it is, enjoy. 4 years ago, a guy by the name of Imperial Storm said one of the players who collided with Edwards was Charles Woodson. If this never happened, Edwards continues his success from his rookie season, which boosted an 8-8 Patriots team to the playoffs. Pete Carroll, who was the Patriots head coach at the time, never gets fired. Therefore, Bill Belichick never leaves the Jets. Tom Brady doesn't get drafted by the Patriots, meaning the Tuck rule, which involved both Brady and Charles Woodson, never occurs. That's pretty damn interesting, bro, and it also would alter Pete's pretty historic run at USC with the Liners and the Reggie Bush and all of that stuff that happened. So it's always interesting how this one little thing could have changed just a huge portion of football history. Anyway, that was just a little fun what if. Back to the story. Only a few weeks from being the best rookie running back in the NFL, Robert now lay in the hospital wondering if he'd ever walk again. The physical, mental, emotional, and probably spiritual toll that this takes on a person is like I can't honestly imagine it. Like, I can't even put it into words, but it's one of those blows that nobody could reasonably expect a person to bounce back from. But at the end of the day, who cares about people's expectations? Who cares what the doctor said? They don't know Robert. The doctors have been wrong once before. Why can't they be wrong again? They know his struggle, his life, his heart, his character. You know what I'm saying? 2 years passed, every day, 8 hours, painstaking, monotonous rehab training. It's brutal if you ever been through it. But that damn Robert Edwards, man, dude wouldn't be denied. After being told he may have his leg amputated and would never play ball again, Robert once again beat the odds and got back into NFL training camp. Only issue was the Patriots' new coach, Bill Belichick, didn't draft Robert and honestly wasn't too invested in his return. So after a growing strain in a hamstring in training camp, Robert got cut before ever being able to prove that he could still play. But he didn't quit. He went to New Orleans, he continued to train for damn near an entire year. Eventually, the Miami Dolphins called. Rob answers, they need to add running back depth. He only ended up getting about 20 carries as a Dolphin, but he turned that into 107 yards and a touchdown, which is pretty damn good at a 5.4 yards per carry average. He also had 18 catches for the Dolphins for 160 yards and another touchdown. This was enough to earn him Comeback Player of the Year, and honestly, even if he didn't record a single stat, the fact that he came back from what he came from and made the damn roster, that should have been enough to get the award. Now, Robert ended up getting released the following year, and he actually said that the Dolphins wouldn't even give him a real reason as to why he was being cut. At this point, he can either lay it down, go back to the crib, and kind of have all the work he did to get back be in vain, or he can continue to push. What y'all think he chose? He ended up taking his talents to the CFL and had 2 more 1,000 plus yard seasons where he actually led that league in rushing. What this dude was able to accomplish is really like unthinkable, you know what I'm saying? Like, we crying over the smallest problem. Oh my God, I'm guilty of this. That's why I like doing these type of videos, man. It really helped put stuff in perspective, because usually the little stuff I be dealing with, it ain't got nothing. Like, look what this man had to do. After getting hurt in 1999 and being told he'd never play the sport again, he was able to retire on his own terms in 2008. Okay, like, look how much time had passed since the doctors told him nah. Look how much football he played. Look how much more he accomplished during that time. It's crazy. So don't let other people dictate the terms of your life. If you really want it bad enough, you can figure out a way to make it happen. Even when everybody think you crazy, it don't matter, because at the end of the day, don't nobody know what's in here. Nobody but you.